Okay, here we have a 2023 Ford Transit 250. It's here for an inspection for the brakes, see if it needs brakes. If it needs brakes, we're gonna do pads and rotors and go from there. So it's just gonna be a basic brake job video today. We're gonna do an oil change on it, but this is what we're gonna do with it. Brake job and go from there. So let's see what we got. Yeah, we definitely need brakes. I'll get you in closer so you can see. You can see how worn the brake pads are. You see the brake sensor right here and how worn the pads are. The brakes, the rotors are pretty beat. They're real dark. The pads are really low. So the customer requested to have pads and rotors put on it. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and pull it apart. See how we make out from there. I am using a Snap-on 3/8 long ratchet. Excellent tool for leverage. Brake sensor for now. We are replacing it, but pull it out so it's out of our way. Let's connect right up over here. And it does just unplug, so just a little squeeze tab. Just a little squeeze tab and unplug it, and this is the sensor. The brake sensor. This is what puts the brake light on. Once your pad gets worn close enough, the tip is magnetic, so once it gets close enough to the rotor, it picks it up to let you know that it is getting worn and it's time to change them. He is getting a pulsation in the pedal, so we're definitely changing the rotors irregardless how they look, because when he applies the brake, he is getting a shimmy in the pedal. Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna pull the caliper off. Caliper bracket. And we are going to lock the caliper in the vise. I'm going to take out the little pieces here, little spaces for the pad, the slides. Anti-rattle clips, I believe, is what the proper terminology is. You always change them. This is what's being done, is the difference between having a backyard mechanic do your brakes for 50 bucks versus $1.50, $200, and they're gonna take everything apart, they're gonna clean everything, make sure everything is clean and wiped down. If there were any rust or anything on these, I would make sure I take them and put them on the wheel, clean them up, buff them out, make them nice. But because the grease is still nice and pliable, don't forget it's a 23. And we're gonna reapply the brake slide grease. And then we're going to clean these notches all out. So when I put the new pads, they come in and I put them in with the clips, grease them, grease everything. And make sure they're all nice and smooth inside. If you have to, grab a rasp or something and just make sure they're nice and smooth, because you don't want any rust to build up in between the back side of the clip, the little notch where it sits in here. If it builds up rust, it then protrudes to push this out, and then now your pad gets stuck and it can no longer move. And that's why you'll end up with pads worn out more on the inside or the outside. And then I'll apply a little bit, a thin layer. Even though the pad itself doesn't slide at this point, it's going to slide in the insert that fits in there, but this will keep moisture from developing in there and creating rust. So now that one's all set for this side. Now now I have to take the rotor off. Also on these, they have a hole. Hold on. Okay, these have a Torx bit that holds the rotor onto the inside of the hub, and this is the bearing. So what I have to do is remove the hub off the bearing setup, so I have to pull the whole bearing off. Alrighty, we gotta hold on a second. I gotta try to find a Torx. Okay, I did find a set. I have a set here that I got. I want to say it came out of O'Reilly's or AutoZone. Forgot what I bought it. Oh, I bought it because I was doing a valves on, I think, a Volkswagen or something head, and I needed really long Torx to get down in between near the head and the bolt. As you can see how deep set in there that is, this has to go through the hole here to get to the bolts because they're inside there. I don't know what the thought process was behind doing it this way, because here in New England, the Rust Belt, they call it, where we live, I don't know how well in 5 years from now these bolts are going to come out. I don't think it's going to come out very easily in 5 years from now. All rusted up, they would all be broken. Hey bud. Okay, sorry about that. But now, we'll take all the bolts out. We'll get them all out of here. And then we will... Now we got to get this off the hub, off there. Okay, ABS is going to stay right there. Oh, we're going to tap that off. Penetrating fluid. Let's touch on that for a second. This is a 50-50 mix of acetone and transmission fluid. It works absolutely amazing. Transmission fluid, you know, you take the bottle, it's 30 fluid ounces, so you put 15 fluid ounces of transmission fluid, any type, it doesn't matter. And an additional 15 ounces of acetone, just regular acetone. As you see, it didn't take a whole lot to get it out. So now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove these bolts. They should be a 13 millimeter. Nope, 12s. Yep, 12s. Just line that up like that, and then you just knock it over here. To there we go. This is the hub bearing, which is fine, nothing wrong with it. It's quiet. And that's the rotor. That's it. So now I'll continue on the other side, do the exact same thing, get it off, and then when I'm ready to reassemble it, I'll bring you back. I'll turn the camera back on as we put it back together. But now, as you see, we'll just clean this up. We'll just clean this up a little bit, buff it, put some never sees, not to get any on the sensor, but we'll clean it all up. We'll collapse the caliper, make sure everything's good, and we'll move on. Thank you, and I'll turn the camera back on shortly. Okay. This is on a 2023 Ford Transit. I'm doing a brake job. Simple brake job, should be an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops. It's turned in now to 3.5 hours on trying to get the proper rotor. This is a 5-lug Ford Transit rotor, not a heavy duty front end. It says when you order the rotor, you measure it by bolt holes. Circle diameter. Doesn't tell you, doesn't show you an illustration on how to do it or what to do. What you have to do is you're going to measure from this outside edge right here, and you're going to come to this side to the center hole, the center of the hole, which it's at 115 millimeter. That's how you measure it. Nowhere do they show you an illustration on where to measure, how to measure it, nothing. This is already the second rotor I've gotten. This is the right one. So you're gonna go from the outside edge of this side to the inside of this opposite hole. You can do it from this hole to that hole, to that hole, they're all the same. They all come out to the exact same measurement, 115 right here. That's 115 millimeter all the way over to 115. So you'd go from the outer edge all the way to the inner center of the opposite side. That's your 115. That's where you measure them from. Why Ford decided to do that is completely, utterly beyond me, because you have a 111 millimeter and a 115. So why would you make two rotors that are only 4 millimeters apart? Makes no common sense in any way, shape, or form why they would do that. But that's how you measure it on a 2000. This happens to be a 23, but this can go all the way back to the 15, 16, 17, 18, right on up. That's how you measure them on the Ford Transit. Have a great day. Once again, from Nitro's Auto Repair. Okay, so now I finally got the right rotor after 2 different tries. This is a 5-lug rotor on this vehicle. Ford decided that they were going to make a 111 millimeter rotor as well as a 115 millimeter rotor. As you see, I showed you how to measure it, but they decided that it was a good idea to do that. What the purpose behind it was? I think just to piss off people and waste people's money. Because now the truck's been on the lift for 2 extra hours. Part stores running back and forth to warehouses to try to get the right rotor. But Ford, they decided to make it less than the thickness of a French fry. We'll have 2 different sizes. Why? I don't know. To me, absolutely insane to do that. But I'm sure somewhere along the line in their career and in their college education, somebody somewhere along the line said, hey, let's do this. It makes sense. Does it? No, not even close. But they thought it did. I'll be right back in a second. Okay, here we are putting the rotor back on. So yeah, this is another one of Ford's brilliant ideas. Let's have to use a long 47 millimeter long Torx all the way through the rotor and in to the spindle through the bearing. That's another one of Ford's brilliant ideas. You know, an old gentleman once said to me many, many years ago that when they design vehicles, they should really contact auto repair shops, mechanics, to ask them if, you know, just to bounce it off them, you think this would be a good idea? Would this be a good idea? And I used to laugh at the gentleman when he would say it. And I used to say, yeah, right. They're going to waste their time and contact you. But you know what? fairness, he was right. They really should have did that, because they would save a lot of money on unnecessary repairs. They would save a lot of money on recalls, because you wouldn't have all these recalls, because you would ask and talk to, mechanics and ask them what do they think of it? What do they think you should do? How should you do it? And is that the right way to do it? That would be the right way to do things, but sometimes you don't see that. They don't do that. They just take it upon themselves to do whatever they think is right. I'm gonna get okay, so now we're all set. We're gonna put the caliper back together. We're gonna put the caliper back on. Let's put the clips in, get everything ready to go back together, and put the brakes back on. I'm going to put some grease in here so this will all slide properly. We won't have any binding. These are done. Now we'll put this back together and put this back on, and we'll be all set. Clip too that you got to make sure you put on to help them slide and retract. Go. So you can see how they go. That is how they go. They sit in there. They compress. It's to help. It's an anti-rattle spring. Make sure when you put them back on that your hose is not twirled. I see too many of them come in that way. Then they wonder why the brakes are not releasing or the pedal feels really weird. Well, that's why. And there you have it. That's that brake job done. Now I'll do the other side. Basically, you see how it's done, how to measure that rotor so you can get them right. Thank you.